here just to help you out if you're wanting to encourage your child to write his or her name. Maybe they're not interested at all, maybe they're finding it difficult. So a few pointers to help you out. First thing to remember, do not stress about it. Children all learn to write their names, okay? Just because your friend's daughter can do it and yours can't, doesn't matter. All of the children develop at different rates and they will do things when they are ready for it. Few things we can do to encourage children on the way to mark making. Big one is developing those muscles in their hands. If you're sitting your little boy or little girl down and ask them to have a go at doing some writing or a drawing and they're complaining about it, might not be that they're being difficult. It might be that it's actually physically hurting them to pick that pencil up and to have a go at writing with it. If muscles aren't developed yet in the children's hands, then that can be physically painful for them. So the best thing you can do, if you think that could possibly be the case for your child, is do things that will develop and strengthen those muscles in the children's hands. Constant use of iPads and technology has actually put the strengthening of those muscles back for some of our children, and it's something that we are noticing as the children are coming into nursery. Those skills aren't always there in the strength in the children's hands. So lots and lots of activities that develop muscle strength. Things like pegging, using Duplo, squeezing putty, throwing and catching a ball, threading things, anything that you can think of that will develop those muscles in their hands, using tongs, picking different things up, playing in water and sand. All these things are helping them to move towards being able to make marks and being able to hold something and feel comfortable with it. So developing those muscles is very, very important first of all. Okay, lots of things you can look up on YouTube. If you go on Pinterest and look up fine motor activities or finger gym activities, there are so many brilliant ideas that you can do with household objects. So that's the first thing you need to do. Once you feel your child is quite confident at making marks, maybe picking up an implement and it doesn't seem to be bothering them, then move on to the next stage. Brilliant way to get children to do mark making is putting something in a tray. So it's not a pen and paper, which can become very tedious. It could be something as simple as I've just put some couscous here in an old takeaway container, and I can ask my child to have a go at making different patterns in there. Some of the ones I've put up here would be perfect, and I'll explain those in a minute. You can maybe give them a little card and just encourage your child with their finger to make these patterns, and they enjoy that. And quite often children who don't want to put pen to paper will enjoy that sort of activity. Shaving foam is fabulous, bits of rice, salt, anything that you can find. Large scale chalking outside, large scale painting, all brilliant. Now generally with mark making, and if you watch my teaching children to write video, I would discourage getting your child to copy your writing. The exception to this would be when your child is learning to write his or her name, because that's something that there is one way to do it, and if we teach it gradually to children, then it will be a perfect way for them to learn. So up here, I have put the first stage of name writing for your child. So before even thinking about getting them to do any of the letters, I would suggest patterns. And you can do any patterns for your child. If you have any of the clear plastic wallets that I've put in the pack for my class, or if you're not in my class, you can buy clear plastic wallets from Learning Resources. You can look on Amazon. You can slide a piece of paper inside and then you can write over it with a whiteboard pen. If you can't get hold of those, just do a piece of paper and ask your child to copy over your lines. Maybe if you do it with a pencil and ask them to do it with some paint or some chalk or some coloured pens, that will make it a little bit more exciting. Okay, so here I have got an example of a name at the top. I've got Amelia. So thinking about the letters in Amelia's name, you might want to focus the patterns you're encouraging your child to create to ones that would help them to form certain letters of their name. So for example, the capital A. A zigzag pattern would be perfect for getting that action of forming the capital A. With the sound again, lots and lots and lots of little all together. Your child can follow along with a finger or with their pen, encouraging them to get that action. The again, swirly pattern like this. And then with the A, encouraging your child to do that action of coming around the top. Also useful if they've got a K in their name. So have a look at the letters in your child's name, and I'm sure you'll be able to think of a pattern to do to encourage your child with those particular sounds. As I said, any pattern is fine at any time, but if you want to encourage them to do the specific ones that you feel would link in with their name, then that's a great idea. Once your child is quite happy and confident at forming different patterns with their finger or with a pencil or a paintbrush, then I would suggest moving on to the first letter of their name only. You can very quickly overface a child by asking them to write their whole name. And if they're copying their name that you've written down, by the time they've got to the end of it, they've completely forgotten what they've done at the start. So we would always say to start with the very first letter of their name. I know we're not in a school situation at the moment, but if your child was in school and had done a picture, if Amelia could write that first A of her name on her picture, then we would know that it belongs to Amelia. And for her, she's got that sense of achievement. She's written her name. Even though it's only the first letter of it, she's done some writing, the grown-ups know what it means, and it's of use to her. So that first letter is really important for the children. Once they grasp that, you'll be able to add the other ones on afterwards. So I would probably say do one letter for your child, maybe a couple of dotty ones that they can go over, and then let them have a go at doing their own at the bottom. If it doesn't look perfect, if it doesn't look anything like yours, don't worry. Lots of praise, lots of encouragement. If it's far too tricky, let them have a go and leave it, and then come back in a week or two, have another little go. Okay, so once your child's got that first letter, then I would say add in the second one. Once they've got the first two together, so they're doing the A and the add the third one in. Continue like that until your child's done their full name. Very important, if you can, to get your child, as they're doing these letters, to form them correctly. Quite often we see children who can write what looks like their name, but actually they haven't formed those letters correctly, so they're going to need to relearn how to do those again. So rather than rushing through and trying to get them to write the whole thing as quickly as possible, we would much prefer that your children can form those letters correctly before they move on to the next one. It just makes things easier for them in the long run. Okay? So there's no right and wrong way to go about this. Again, it's all about confidence, all about what your child enjoys doing, but start with that first letter, move on from there. Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much. See you soon.